The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES Defiant. Captain John Hayes stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the vast emptiness of space. Earth shone like a blue jewel below, peaceful and unaware of how much would change today. "Captain, they're here." Commander Samantha Miller's voice broke the silence. Her usually calm face showed a mix of excitement and worry. Hayes nodded. "Thank you, Commander. Alert all stations." The ship's communication system came to life. "Attention all personnel. First contact protocols are now active. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." For decades, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. They had sent radio signals into space hoping someone would answer. 3 months ago, someone finally did. The message was simple. We are coming. Earth's governments had scrambled to prepare. The United Earth Defense Force, created just 10 years earlier to handle space security, suddenly found itself responsible for humanity's first meeting with aliens. Hayes walked to the bridge, his footsteps echoing in the quiet hallway. The crew members he passed looked nervous but determined. They had trained for this moment, even though no one truly believed it would happen in their lifetime. The bridge of the Defiant hummed with activity. Lieutenant Eric Bennett sat at the communications station, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "Captain, the alien vessel has entered lunar orbit. They're requesting permission to approach Earth." "Put it on screen," Hayes ordered, settling into his command chair. The main display flickered to life, showing an enormous ship that made the Defiant look like a toy. Its surface gleamed like polished silver, with no visible engines or weapons. It simply existed in space, defying human understanding of physics. "That thing must be at least 3 miles long," whispered Miller, standing at Hayes's side. "Sir, they're hailing us again," Bennett reported. Hayes straightened his uniform jacket. "Open a channel." The screen changed to show the interior of the alien vessel. Standing in what appeared to be a command center was a tall, slender being with silvery skin that reflected light like mercury. Its large almond-shaped eyes were solid black, showing no whites or pupils. When it moved, it did so with a fluid grace that suggested advanced evolution or genetic engineering. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said, its mouth not quite matching the words. Some kind of translation technology was at work. "I am High Envoy Zalthep of the Galactic Confederation. We have been observing your world for some time." Hayes stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we welcome you. I am Captain John Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force." The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your species has achieved spaceflight only recently," Zalthep noted. "Yet you've already colonized your solar system. Impressive for primitives." Several bridge officers exchanged glances. Hayes maintained his diplomatic smile, but his jaw tightened. "We're a young spacefaring species, yes, but we learn quickly." "Indeed." Zalthep's face showed something like amusement. "We would like to extend an invitation to your leaders to discuss Earth's place in the galactic community." "I'll relay your request immediately," Hayes replied. After the communication ended, Miller approached Hayes. "Sir, did they just call us primitives?" "They did." Hayes frowned. "And they didn't seem too impressed by our achievements." "We've only had faster-than-light travel for 15 years, Bennett pointed out. "Maybe to them, that is primitive." Hayes nodded slowly. "Lieutenant, contact Earth Command. Tell them we need to prepare for visitors." 3 days later, Hayes stood in the grand hall of the newly built International Space Cooperation Center in Geneva. World leaders and top military officers filled the room, all waiting nervously for the arrival of the alien delegation. "Captain Hayes?" a voice called from behind him. Hayes turned to find Dr. Lisa Carson, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "Is it true they look like walking mercury?" Hayes smiled. "That's one way to describe them. Their biology is like nothing we've seen before." Carson's eyes gleamed with excitement. "I've been studying aliens my whole career, but I never thought I'd actually meet one." "None of us did," Hayes admitted. A hush fell over the room as the main doors opened. High Envoy Zalthep entered, followed by 6 other aliens of various shapes and colors. They moved with the same fluid grace as their leader, looking around the room with what seemed like mild curiosity. Earth's Secretary General stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your presence." Zalthep bowed slightly. "The honor is ours to welcome a new species to the galactic community." The alien surveyed the room. "Though your technology is quaint." Hayes felt a flash of irritation. The center represented humanity's best architectural and technological achievements. To have it dismissed as quaint stung. The meeting began with introductions of various alien species. Besides the Zarkoni, represented by Zalthep, there were the bird-like Pralxi, the massive rock-skinned Gorn, and others too strange to easily describe. "The Galactic Confederation has existed for over 10,000 years, Zalthep explained. "We unite hundreds of spacefaring species across the Milky Way. When we detected your signals, we decided it was time to welcome you." "What exactly does membership in this confederation mean?" asked the Secretary General. Zalthep's expression changed slightly. "Protection, guidance, access to certain technologies." The alien paused. "Though naturally such benefits come with responsibilities." As the meeting continued, Hayes listened carefully to the offer. Earth could join the Confederation as a protectorate species. Humans would be classified as a Tier 4 civilization, the bottom of the Confederation hierarchy. They would receive limited technology transfers and be allowed minimal participation in galactic affairs. The alternative was isolation. The Confederation controlled all major trade routes and resource-rich systems. A species that refused membership would find itself cut off from the galactic community. During a break, Hayes found himself standing near a window with Miller and Secretary of Defense Alan Parker. "They're not really giving us a choice," Miller said quietly. Parker nodded grimly. "Join or be left behind. Classic power play." "There's something else," Hayes added. "Did you notice how interested they were when the Mars excavations were mentioned? Earth had recently discovered ruins beneath the surface of Mars, evidence of some ancient civilization that had once inhabited the planet. The findings were preliminary, but exciting." "Yes," Parker frowned. "And when I tried to ask more about it, they changed the subject." "Sir," Hayes said, "I don't trust them. This feels less like a welcome and more like a takeover." Parker sighed. "Perhaps, but we're in no position to challenge a coalition of hundreds of advanced species. For now, we play along and learn what we can." 2 weeks later, Earth's governments agreed to join the Confederation. The announcement was met with mixed reactions from the public, excitement about new technologies and alien contact, but concern about the terms. Hayes watched the ceremony from the back of the room as Earth's leaders signed the agreement. Zalthep's face showed that same hint of amusement that Hayes had come to dislike. As the ceremony concluded, a young lieutenant approached Hayes. "Sir, I've been assigned as liaison to the Confederation diplomatic vessel. Lieutenant Peter Murphy, sir." Hayes shook the man's hand. "Keep your eyes open, Lieutenant. Learn everything you can." "Yes, sir." Murphy hesitated. "Sir, do you think we made the right choice?" Hayes looked back at the aliens, now mingling with Earth's elite. "I don't know, but I do know this. They're hiding something, and I intend to find out what it is." As if sensing Hayes's gaze, Zalthep turned and looked directly at him. The alien smiled, revealing teeth that seemed just a bit too sharp. Hayes didn't smile back. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation. Life changed in both big and small ways. Alien tourists walked the streets of major cities. New technologies appeared in homes and workplaces. Humans began working on Confederation ships, learning about the universe beyond their solar system. But not everything was perfect. Dr. Alice Winters wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked deep inside the Martian ruins. The underground chamber was hot and dusty despite the environmental controls. As Earth's chief archaeologist studying the ruins beneath Olympus Mons, she had spent more time on Mars than on her home planet in the last 3 years. "Alice, come, look at this." called her research partner, Dr. Gregory Daniels. His voice echoed through the ancient stone corridors. Alice carefully made her way toward him, stepping over fallen columns and scattered debris. Greg stood in a small room they had just uncovered. His flashlight pointed at a wall covered in strange symbols. "These markings," she said, running her fingers over the carved shapes. "They're similar to the ones we found last month." Greg nodded, excitedly. "Not just similar, I think they're exactly the same writing system." He pulled out a tablet and showed her images from another dig site. "Look at these glyphs from the Gobi Desert ruins on Earth. They match perfectly with what we're seeing here." Alice stared at the comparison, her heart beating faster. "That's impossible. The Gobi ruins are at least 50,000 years old." "Exactly." Greg's eyes shone with excitement. "What if these ruins are connected? What if the same civilization existed on both Mars and Earth?" Alice studied the symbols carefully. For years, the Confederation had shown strange interest in the Mars ruins. They provided equipment and some experts, but always insisted that humans lead the research. It seemed like kindness, but Alice had begun to suspect there was another reason. "The Confederation knows something they're not telling us," she said quietly. At the same time, aboard the massive Confederation diplomatic vessel orbiting Earth, Lieutenant Peter Murphy walked through the gleaming hallways. After 5 years working as an aide to the human ambassador, he had learned to ignore the looks he got from some alien species. Not all of them approved of humans joining the Confederation. Murphy entered the Great Hall where a diplomatic reception was underway. Representatives from dozens of species mingled, discussing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. He spotted Ambassador William Foster, Earth's chief representative, speaking with a group of Zarkoni officials. "Ah, Lieutenant Murphy." The ambassador waved him over. "I was just explaining to our friends about Earth's new deep space exploration program." One of the Zarkoni, a female named Seltana, tilted her head. "Your ships are still using nuclear propulsion? How quaint." "Our technology works well enough for our needs," Murphy replied politely, though he felt a familiar sting of irritation. An avian Pralxi diplomat nearby made a chirping sound that Murphy recognized as laughter. "Such primitive designs," the bird-like alien said. "My ancestors left such technologies behind 1,000,000 years ago." This was nothing new. The Confederation races regularly mocked Earth's simple ships, weapons, and computer systems. Humans were still using physical controls and displays, while most advanced species had neural interfaces. Earth ships relied on fusion drives, while others used gravity manipulation. "Perhaps one day you'll catch up to the rest of us," the Pralxi added, not unkindly. Murphy just smiled and nodded. But as the evening went on, he noticed something odd. When Ambassador Foster mentioned the Mars excavations, the Zarkoni delegates quickly changed the subject. When he tried to access information about ancient archaeological sites in the Confederation database, certain areas were restricted. Later that night, Murphy sent a private message to Captain Hayes, who had been promoted to Admiral after first contact. They had stayed in touch over the years, sharing their growing doubts about the Confederation's true intentions. "There's something they don't want us to know," Murphy wrote. "Something about our past." Back on Mars, Alice and her team made a breakthrough. Deep within the maze of underground chambers, they discovered a sealed room untouched for millennia. "The door is made of some kind of metal we've never seen before," Greg said, examining the readings from his scanner. "It's still intact after all this time." The team worked carefully to open the ancient door without damaging it. When it finally slid open, they gasped at what they found inside. The room was perfectly preserved. Unlike the rest of the ruins, no dust or damage had touched this place. In the center stood what looked like a control panel, and behind it, a floating sphere of dark metal. Is that still working?" whispered one of the junior researchers. Alice approached slowly. The panel lit up as she came near, symbols appearing on its surface. "It's a data core," she said in awe. "And it's still active." Working day and night, the team managed to interface their computers with the ancient technology. They discovered the core contained vast amounts of information, history, science, art, from a civilization that had once thrived across the solar system. When word reached the Confederation about the active data core, they immediately demanded it be turned over. Such artifacts are too dangerous for Tier 4 species to handle, High Envoy Zalthep explained to Earth's leaders. We will analyze it and share any relevant information with you. Earth's government, bound by the treaty they had signed, reluctantly agreed, but not before Alice made a secret copy of some of the data. Late one night, in a secure lab hidden beneath the lunar colony, Alice and Greg examined what they had found. This can't be right, Alice whispered, staring at the translated text on her screen. The ancient records told a story that defied everything humans had been told. According to the data, humans hadn't evolved on Earth at all. They had been a spacefaring civilization, perhaps the most advanced the galaxy had ever known. Listen to this, Greg said, reading from another file. The servant races have rebelled. Our outer colonies have fallen. The home system is under attack. Alice looked up. Servant races? Greg continued reading. The decision has been made. Project Sanctuary will proceed. The survivors will be relocated to the third planet with modified memories while the defense fleet is hidden throughout the system. The third planet, Earth, Alice said slowly. And the servant races could be the Confederation species, Greg finished. It's saying that we created them, not the other way around. Further files revealed the truth. Around 50,000 BCE, a catastrophic war had raged across the galaxy. Artificial species created by humans had risen up against their creators. They won not through superior technology, but through overwhelming numbers. The surviving humans had been relocated to Earth with their memories and history erased, allowed to develop as if they were a new species. The rebels, now calling themselves the Confederation, had established themselves as the dominant power in the galaxy, deliberately suppressing technological development along certain paths, the paths of human innovation. Alice sat back, trying to process what she had learned. We need to tell someone about this, someone we can trust. Greg nodded. I know just the person. Admiral Hayes has always been suspicious of the Confederation. He needs to see this. As they prepared to send their findings, Alice found one more file simply labeled Coordinates. Greg, she said, her voice trembling with excitement, I think I know where our ancestors hid their ships. Admiral Frank Rivera stared at the data displayed on the secure screen in his underground office. The room, located 200 feet beneath the United Earth Defense Force headquarters in Colorado, was designed to be completely private. No cameras, no listening devices, no network connections. Only 5 people on Earth knew it existed. You're absolutely certain about this? He asked, looking up at Alice Winters and Gregory Daniels. We've triple-checked the translations, Alice replied. Her eyes were tired from days without proper sleep. The data core doesn't lie. We were them. They were us. Rivera ran a hand through his gray hair. For years, he had sensed something wasn't right about humanity's place in the Confederation. The way the aliens looked at humans, the restricted databases, the carefully measured technology transfers, it all felt like a cage being built around Earth piece by piece. What about these coordinates? He asked, pointing to a list of numbers on the screen. Greg leaned forward. They point to locations throughout the solar system. According to the data, that's where the ancient fleet was hidden, not destroyed, Alice added. Hidden, for us to find when we were ready. Rivera was silent for a long moment. Throughout his career, he had quietly built Earth's defense force, preparing for the day when humans might need to protect themselves against the very aliens who claimed to be their benefactors. If this is true, he finally said, it changes everything. And if the Confederation finds out what we know, they'll stop us, Alice finished. Then we don't let them find out. Rivera stood up. I need to call an emergency meeting with people I trust. In the meantime, no one else hears about this. 3 days later, in a secure conference room, Rivera addressed a small group of Earth's most trusted leaders. The President of the North, American Union, sat at the head of the table, her face grave as she listened to Rivera's presentation. The evidence is clear, Rivera concluded. Human civilization didn't evolve on Earth. We were placed here after losing a war with our own creations, the very species that now make up the Confederation. And you believe these coordinates will lead us to advanced technology? Asked General Kate Wilson, head of the Global Space Command. If the data is correct, they'll lead us to the most advanced fleet ever built, Rivera replied. Ships that make Confederation vessels look primitive. The room was quiet as everyone considered the implications. If humans suddenly appeared with technology beyond what the Confederation possessed, it could lead to another war, one that Earth might not survive. We need to be certain, the president finally said. I want a small team to check one of these coordinates. If you find something, we'll decide next steps. Rivera nodded. I already have a team in mind. 2 weeks later, a small research vessel named the UES Discovery approached Neptune. To any watching Confederation ships, it appeared to be on a routine scientific mission to study the gas giant's atmosphere. Its true purpose was known only to the crew and a handful of people back on Earth. Commander Samantha Miller stood on the bridge watching as Neptune grew larger on the main screen. After serving with Hayes for years, she had been his first choice to lead this mission. We're approaching the coordinates, reported Lieutenant Ryan Foster from the navigation station. Triton is coming into visual range. Triton, Neptune's largest moon, was a frozen world of nitrogen ice. No one lived there. Its distance from the sun made it too cold and dark for colonies. The perfect hiding place. Any sign of Confederation patrols? Miller asked. Nothing on scanners, replied Security Chief Ben Collins. We're alone out here. The ship entered orbit around Triton. Close-up images showed a barren, cracked surface. According to the ancient coordinates, what they sought was beneath that frozen crust. I'm detecting an anomaly, called out Science Officer Olivia Ward. There's a perfect circle about 5 miles across where the ice is different, thinner, maybe. Miller studied the readings. That's our target. Prepare the landing craft. Hours later, Miller led a team of 8 onto Triton's surface. Their exploration suits protected them from the extreme cold as they set up drilling equipment over the anomaly. The ice core samples they extracted confirmed Olivia's theory. This section of ice was newer than the surrounding area, as if it had been melted and refrozen. Something's down there, Miller said over the comm. Let's find out what. The team used thermal drills to cut through the ice. At exactly 100 meters down, the drill hit something that wasn't ice or rock. Metal, reported engineer Joe Parker examining a sample, but not like any metal I've ever seen. They widened the opening and sent down probes with lights and cameras. What they saw made them fall silent in awe. Command, are you seeing this? Miller whispered. Rivera's voice came through the comm. We see it, Commander. Proceed with caution. The team descended through the opening. What awaited them was beyond their wildest expectations. They stood at the edge of an enormous underground hangar, so vast that their lights couldn't reach the far walls. And within that space, arranged in perfect rows, stood ships. But calling them ships didn't do them justice. Their sleek black hulls absorbed all light, making them look like ship-shaped holes in reality. No windows, no visible engines, no external weapons, just smooth surfaces that seemed to draw in light rather than reflect it. My God, whispered Miller as she approached the nearest vessel. It was smaller than the others, perhaps a scout ship, but still larger than the Discovery. They're still here, just like the data said. Ben Collins ran a scanner over the hull. I'm getting no readings at all. It's like the scanner can't see it. Olivia moved to what looked like an entrance. Commander, there's some kind of marking here. She brushed away centuries of dust to reveal a symbol etched into the black surface. A stylized Earth, with a single star above it. The symbol of the human fleet, Miller said, remembering the images from the data core. This is it. This is really it. As she touched the symbol, the ship responded. A seam appeared in the previously seamless hull, widening into a doorway. Soft light spilled out from within. It recognized your DNA, Olivia said in amazement. It knows you're human. Miller hesitated only a moment before stepping inside. The others followed cautiously. The interior was nothing like modern spacecraft. No control panels, no screens, no buttons, just smooth surfaces and comfortable-looking chairs arranged in a circle around a central pedestal. "What powers these things?" Joe asked, running his hands over the walls. "I don't see any reactor housing or fuel cells." Miller approached the central pedestal. It lit up at her presence, projecting a three-dimensional star map of the solar system. A soft voice spoke in a language none of them understood, yet somehow Miller felt she could almost grasp the meaning. "It's waiting," she said. "It's been waiting for us for 50,000 years." She placed her hand on the pedestal. Information flooded her mind, not like reading or hearing, but like remembering something she had always known. In that instant, she understood how the ship worked, how all the ships worked. They were more advanced than anything the Confederation had ever shown humans. "Command," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Tell Admiral Rivera we found it. The ancient fleet is real, and it's ours." 2 months after the discovery on Triton, Earth was hosting the annual Confederation Summit. Representatives from over 50 alien species had gathered in the Grand Meeting Hall of the International Space Cooperation Center in Geneva. The massive room buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages as delegates discussed trade agreements, technology transfers, and the latest news from across the galaxy. High Envoy Zalthep stood at the podium, addressing the assembled delegates and Earth's government officials. Admiral Frank Rivera sat in the front row, his face carefully neutral as he listened to the Zarkoni representative. "As we begin our 6th year of partnership with humanity," Zalthep was saying, "we must consider their petition for advancement to Tier 3 status." Murmurs spread through the alien delegates. Earth had been pushing for an upgrade from their Tier 4 classification for years, seeking greater access to Confederation technology and more say in galactic politics. Zalthep's silvery face showed that familiar hint of condescension. "While humans have shown remarkable adaptability, our assessment indicates they are not yet ready for Tier 3 responsibilities. Their technological understanding remains limited." Several alien representatives nodded in agreement. A Pralxi delegate chirped something that made those nearby laugh. Rivera checked his watch. It was almost time. "Perhaps in another decade," Zalthep continued, "we can revisit this discussion. For now, Earth will remain at Tier 4, with all the protections and limitations that entails." The chamber's lights flickered suddenly. Zalthep paused, looking up in confusion. "Apologies for the interruption," Admiral Rivera said as he stood and approached the podium. "But there's something we'd like to show our esteemed guests." The large screen behind the podium activated, showing a live feed from space. The image focused on Neptune's orbit, where something was happening. Small dots of light appeared one by one, emerging from behind the blue planet. "What is this?" Zalthep demanded. "Just a moment," Rivera replied calmly. "The feed is still coming in." The image zoomed in and the delegates gasped. The dots of light were ships unlike anything the Confederation had seen in 10 millennia. Dozens of vessels with sleek black hulls that seemed to devour light rather than reflect it, moving with impossible grace and speed. "Impossible," Zalthep sputtered, his usual composure shattered. "The ancient fleet was destroyed." "No," Rivera replied, his voice steady. "It was hidden. By us. For us." The alien delegates erupted in chaos. Some rose from their seats in panic, others shouted questions or demands. The Zarkoni delegation huddled together, speaking rapidly in their native language. Rivera held up his hands for silence. "Please, everyone, remain calm. We're not here to threaten anyone." On the screen, more ships continued to appear, hundreds of them now forming a massive fleet that dwarfed anything Earth or the Confederation currently possessed. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded a reptilian delegate from the back of the room. "Simply put," Rivera explained, "we've discovered our true heritage. Humanity didn't evolve on Earth. We created the civilization that preceded the Confederation. He nodded to a technician, who changed the display to show translated excerpts from the ancient data core. The evidence was clear. The timeline of galactic history, the creation of servant species who eventually rebelled, the relocation of surviving humans to Earth with their memories altered. You've been lying to us since first contact, Rivera continued, treating us like children, carefully controlling what technology we could access. But the truth was always out there waiting for us to find it. Salthep had recovered some of his composure. These are outrageous claims. This so-called evidence could be fabricated. The ships aren't fabricated, Rivera replied, gesturing to the screen where the ancient fleet continued to gather, and they respond only to human DNA. Curious, isn't it? The truth spread quickly throughout the chamber. Humans hadn't been uplifted by the Confederation. They had built the civilization that preceded it. The servant races had rebelled, but had never truly surpassed their creators. If this is true, said an elderly Gorn delegate slowly, what do you intend to do? Seek revenge for events that happened 50,000 years ago? Rivera shook his head. No, we don't want war. We never did. He looked directly at Zalthep. But the era of treating humanity as children ends today. We're reclaiming our heritage and our rightful place among the stars. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, now interfaced with ancient technology, Captain John Hayes watched as reports came in from around the solar system. Each hidden cache of ships they had found was now active, crewed by carefully selected personnel who, like Samantha Miller, had quickly adapted to the mind interface controls that made the ancient fleet so powerful. The ship's technology was beyond anything the Confederation races had achieved. Quantum gravity manipulation, consciousness-directed interfaces, energy systems that drew power directly from subspace, weapons that could unmake matter at the subatomic level. Admiral Rivera's announcement is complete, reported Lieutenant Bennett from his station. The Confederation delegates are, well, they're freaking out, sir. Hayes nodded. That's to be expected. Their whole power structure just collapsed. Commander. Miller stood beside him, her eyes showing the faint glow that marked those who had fully connected with the ancient technology. The fleet is ready, Captain. All ships report successful activation and neural linking. Open a channel to the Confederation Council, Hayes ordered. The main display shifted to show the council chamber, where the highest-ranking representatives of each major species were gathered in emergency session. Their faces showed a mixture of fear, anger, and confusion. This is Captain John Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force, he stated firmly. As Admiral Rivera has explained, we've reclaimed our heritage. The ships you now see in Neptune's orbit are just a fraction of what we've found hidden throughout our solar system. He let that sink in before continuing. We don't want war, he said. We never did. But we will no longer accept being treated as inferiors. The classification system ends today. No more tiers, no more protectorates. The head of the Confederation, Council, an ancient pralxi named Krizak, stepped forward. And if we refuse? Hayes didn't answer directly. Instead, he nodded to Miller. One of the ancient ships broke from the formation and approached a small, uninhabited moon orbiting Neptune. A beam of energy invisible until it touched its target reached out from the ship. The moon, a rock about 20 miles across, simply vanished, converted entirely to energy. The council chamber went silent. We don't want to use this power, Hayes said quietly. We created your ancestors because we wanted companions among the stars, not servants and certainly not enemies. We're offering a chance to start over, as equals this time. Krizak conferred quickly with the other council members before responding. We will consider your proposal. Good. Hayes nodded. We'll await your response. After the communication ended, Hayes looked around at his crew, humans who just months ago had been struggling to master primitive technology by Confederation standards, now controlling the most powerful ships in the galaxy. Do you think they'll agree? Bennett asked. They don't have much choice, Miller pointed out. They know we could take what we want by force. But we won't, Hayes said firmly. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us human. Within a year, the entire structure of galactic society had been reorganized. The tier system was abolished, replaced by equal partnerships between all spacefaring species. Earth quickly became a center for technological development as humans rediscovered their innate talent for innovation. The ancient fleet, now called the Human Heritage Fleet, patrolled the galaxy not as conquerors but as peacekeepers. Many of the old prejudices remained, but they were fading as the species of the galaxy adjusted to their new reality, and the races that had once laughed at humanity's primitive technology now looked to them with newfound respect and more than a little fear, as they realized that humans hadn't been evolving toward Confederation standards. The Confederation had been devolving from human ones. In his new office aboard the orbital station Unity, Admiral Hayes looked out at the Earth below. A Zarkoni ship was docking nearby, a trading vessel, not a warship. Progress was being made. Full circle, he murmured to himself. We built this civilization once. We can build it again, better this time. And somewhere deep in space, ancient sensors detected the activity and sent a signal along pathways established millennia ago. The last hidden fleet, the greatest of them all, began to awaken from its long slumber. Humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning. The end